Hello and welcome to an FDP Special.
Let's take this a little while to discuss that. We've had a few diary clashes to say.
Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
It's a little bit extra special
Drop podcast.
Certainly is, yeah. This is an episode where we can be who we want to be every episode. Without the bullshit, without the unbiasedness, without all of that.
True Gooners.
True Gooners. This is the Football Drop Arsenal podcast today. All of our listeners have gone, oh, fuck that, that's every episode I'm turning off.
Yeah, pretty much. Now this time it is all things Arsenal. We've got I don't really know how to say it. It still seems a bit surreal, but we've got Akhil joining us on the board of the Arsenal Supporters Trust.
This is going to be a good one.
It's going to be an epic one. Absolutely epic one.
Interested to hear all the stories that you get being in the Arsenal Supporters Trust and on the board.
Absolutely. Let's go. Akhil, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. It's one of those where we try to cover Premier League generally. We've been Gooners our entire life, and we try our best to be as non-biased as possible, just to be fair to everyone. But this week we can just throw that out the window, just all things Arsenal. So we are genuinely so excited, like kids, to do this. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Just for the purpose of the listeners, really, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do.
Yeah, so I follow Arsenal essentially. Sort of been going to Arsenal for many years. Go home and away. This year on course at the moment to get 100% record. So that's quite. Oh, well, I miss PSV away, but I went to Lens and Seville. So close enough, right? So yeah, been going to Arsenal for many years. Also a board member of the Arsenal Supporters Trust. Been involved there for about 10, 12 years or so, which I'm sure we'll go into and we absolutely can go into. But yeah, just been around the club for quite a while. I'm just sort of, it's part of my life, really.
Amazing. And when did the love affair with Arsenal start?
Oh,
What age?
mid to early 90s. Ian Wright was probably one of the main reasons. Proper personality, had every celebration under the sun. He was a really likable person for a young person. And it was just, I just loved Ian Wright, and that obviously then got me into Arsenal. I had family that supported Arsenal. My mum grew up in sort of like the Southgate, Arnold's Grove area. So you were either Arsenal or you were another team that we won't mention. So luckily, the whole family was Arsenal. So it kind of, there was a few reasons really. But yeah, it started very early, 3-4 years old really.
Amazing.
Yeah, same.
Happy days.
I love Ian Wright. Absolutely adore Ian Wright.
Yeah. It's a big reason why. I think if you were starting to like football in the 90s, mid-90s, it was probably, if you're an Arsenal fan, it was Ian Wright. And then obviously went on to the Dennis Bergkamp and the Arsene Wenger days. But it was really, Ian Wright was just such a personality. As a kid, you wanted to be him. You wanted to put your collars up like he did sometimes. You wanted that JVC shirt. Everything about him was just great.
Do you remember your first game?
I do. It was a 0-0 against Coventry at Highbury. Nothing happened. Like, I'm surprised I went back, to be honest. I think Nigel Winterburn, Nutty hit the bar, I think, or post. I hit the woodwork. Couldn't see much, to be honest. It was pretty cold. Wasn't very enjoyable, if I'm honest. As I said, I'm surprised I went back, but thankfully I persevered.
Yeah.
Amazing. In terms of your worst game, then, or most memorable worst game?
It's been a few.
I mean, the 8-2 at Old Trafford was bad.
Joe, I knew you was going to say that as well. I was going to ask if you went there or not.
Yeah, I was there, but we got a refund. I mean, that was, in those days it wasn't 30 quid; it was a bit more. So we got about 50 quid back, which was good. I'm pretty sure I booked my mate's ticket who drove, and I don't think I ever gave him his money back. So I think I made money out of that game. I made about 100 quid. So that wasn't too bad, right? But it's probably there's probably two. Well, one is the Champions League final because that was just heartbreaking. 2006 in Paris, it was. We were there. We had the team, we had the players, we had Thierry Henry at the top of his game, and to lose that, I think going down to 10 men. Belletti's shot was actually going wide when it hit Almunia and went in. It was just the whole day and the whole game really. It was just so heartbreaking. So I think that's up there. But it's probably joint with the 6-0 at Stamford Bridge purely because it was Arsene Wenger's, I think, 1000th game.
1000th game, yeah.
And it was just a little bit. You just felt for the man. That was when he was under a lot of pressure anyway, and a lot of fans did want him to leave. But that was the one game. Everyone was behind him. It was against Jose, who we're not massively keen on. And it was just we were like 3 or 4-0 down within minutes, and it was I think was it Kieran Gibbs was sent off instead of Chamberlain. It was the mix up it was
that game, wasn't it?
Of course. So it was just a terrible game, and it was just at the Bridge, and to see Jose and the Chelsea fans enjoy it so much, so it wasn't pleasant. So I would say those two, top of my head, are probably the two that I remember.
Wicked. I've got to talk about the Champions League final that you brought it up. So you was actually there at the game.
Yeah.
What was the mood like before the game?
Excitement. It was all about we thought we were going to win. Barca were a great side, obviously. But this was pre-Pep, so it was the Frank Rijkaard time. They had Ronaldinho, who was a magician. But Messi was young, hadn't quite done, the Leo Messi we know today was not the Leo Messi we knew then. I think Iniesta came off the bench, if I'm right. So Xavi and Iniesta, that whole famous partnership that we know, if you say who do you want in the midfield, you say Xavi and Iniesta. That wasn't a thing at the time as well. So it was really just Ronaldinho. They of course, had great players. But we felt we were just as good. We had Thierry, who was at the time probably his finest, 2 or 3 years really. And the way we'd got there, we'd beaten Madrid, we'd beaten Juventus, we'd really Real. We got maybe a little bit lucky, but that's part of football. We'd kept. I don't think we'd conceded a goal in the knockout games. So we'd kept 3 clean sheets in a row. 6 clean sheets in a row, I guess, with the home and the away leg. It was just everything was going well. We had got players back for the final. Sol Campbell was back. We had played like Mathieu Flamini left back, that whole thing. Philip Senderos played. In fact, that shirt reminds me of Philip Senderos actually. One of my mates has got Senderos on the back of it. It's weird man. But it's I say weird man actually. We met Senderos in Seville a few months ago. The day after the game, he was doing a bus tour like we were. So it was quite a nice guy. But that's not what we're here to talk about. But yeah, so we just felt that we were there to win, and I think as soon as Jens Lehmann got sent off, you just thought this is now going to become difficult, and it was just gutting. I think you just wanted, I still say it now, referee, play on 1-0 Barcelona, 11 against 11. Let's go. I'm just looking forward to I think even if you're
away from 2, 3, 4, wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast a little bit and kept the spectacle, but I think unfortunately, it was a sending off, but yeah, it wasn't a malicious one, so it was just it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, and you had the highs of Sol Campbell obviously scoring, didn't you? And then
absolutely, yeah,
the absolute lows after that.
Yeah, exactly, and it was just there were chances in the game as well. I think we Caleb put Thierry Henry through, and Henry's talked about it like afterwards, like his foot just went numb. It was just he was just knackered and he had nothing left. And that when he, I don't know if you remember it, but it was kind of on his right foot, his usual, the Gabby Martinelli from the other week type of goal, where it's just you was just thinking, oh, he's going to bury this. He's been doing this for 6 years. Yeah. But he just didn't have no power on it. The keeper, Valdez, I think, saved it. He kind of, Henry fell over. And I think us in the sort of, in the stands fell over as well, essentially. We all kind of, not literally, obviously, but we all just thought, wow, he's gone here. And I think we're gone as well. And it's just that sense of, I'm not sure we're going to get back into this. But, I mean, we were actually 1 up then, but it was kind of like a sense of, we're gone here. It's coming sort of thing. And unfortunately it did.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, we were just sort of camping out, weren't we? Basically, just Jose would say, just parking the bus at, a
little bit,
down. But it's just it haunts me to this day. Like everyone that, like we've got a Chelsea fan, he stepped in and done a couple of episodes with us, and he every now and then he just goes, yeah, but you've never won anything in Europe. I'm like, just fuck off.
Yeah, it's a real funny enough, I'm lucky enough I actually talked to Arsene Wenger about it. I don't know, around 2014 the time. It was at an AGM, an annual general meeting, and through the Us Supporters Trust we had shares, and I asked him that, from that Champions League final, any regrets, anything at all, and I said, is it taking Pires off? Is it doing this? Is it doing that? And he goes, but he doesn't regret taking Pires off because, Freddie Ljungberg, if you remember, had a great game and he just ran. Freddie was fantastic. And he said that he wanted to leave Reyes on because he felt Reyes had the pace to actually counter. So he goes, he felt for Bobby, but had to take him off. But he goes, the one thing maybe he would do differently was he took Fabregas off for Flamini. And he goes, maybe we just became too defensive then and became a little bit in our shell. And we invited Barcelona onto us, whereas keeping Cesc on might have just made us control the game, or allowed us to control the game rather, and potentially we might have had another chance there. Ljungberg with Reyes might have got another chance to go 2 up. So he's, it's just interesting that even he, he said, I think he's openly admitted it in interviews, but he said it to us that day that he still. I don't know if he still does now, but he certainly 2014, he was still every day. He said he thought about that and he thought about the game, and he thought about decisions. And I think he said he's never watched it back, but I can't remember. But he says he thinks about it all the time. And you're not alone, Arsene. So do we.
No,
I've never watched it back. I've never been able to put myself through it. Never.
I've watched the highlights of the Sol Campbell goal. Then I'm like, oh yeah, and I just pretend that was it. That's the end of the game, and just click pause, close it. I mean, that kind of leads us on nicely. So obviously you're part of the Arsenal Supporters Trust. Obviously you're a board member on there, and I saw that you're the youngest board member ever.
Yeah, not anymore actually.
They've not updated it then.
Well, we're getting our website done. So we've got a younger lad called Zach who I actually brought in, but I was the youngest for a while, the youngest ever for a while. But we've recruited someone to. But I mean, obviously, when we wrote that was 10 years ago. So I was, I was sort of 25 at the time. Now I'm 35. So obviously we need younger blood in. So it's kind of a case of, if I was still the youngest, it would be worrying because then we haven't recruited anyone in 10 years. So, but at the time, I was the youngest.
Okay. Amazing. So talk us through your sort of role there, if you can. We've never been kind of exposed to anything like that, and I'm sure the listeners that are tuning in or watching on YouTube now are interested.
So the Arsenal Supporters Trust is like a registered society, so it's kind of governed. We've got to give our accounts to Companies House and all that kind of stuff, so it's kind of a legal entity. And essentially, we say we're kind of like a critical friend of the club, but a friend. And that means we can question them, we can ask challenging questions, we can kind of, sort of hold them to account, but hopefully in a good way. And at the same time, they can then use us to, as a focus group to ask us if we've got ideas or ideas that they've got, if they want to kind of get some fan opinions. We've obviously got membership that we can ask and stuff like that. So the Supporters Trust started in 2003. And essentially it started by a group of fans who are still kind of part of it, who own shares at Arsenal. And obviously in those days it was different. Football clubs weren't just owned by one owner, they were owned by several. And there was sort of, around a couple of 100 minority shareholders who had 1 share, 2 shares, something like that. At the time, obviously, sort of the Hill Woods and Danny Fisman, David Dean, Neil Bracewell Smith, they all owned the club. But you had about sort of, 200 to 300 people who had a share. So what the Arsenal Sports Trust did was brought them all together and said, actually, everyone that's got a share, if we're together, we actually collectively own like 3% of Arsenal, and we're a lot stronger together. So it kind of gave everyone a bit of a stronger voice. It made the AGMs a little bit more sort of exciting as well, but a little bit more worthwhile, because obviously suddenly you had the Supporters Trust basically representing all of those people. So that's how it started. It was about governance. It's never been about on the pitch. The Supporters Trust, I think in 20 years have only ever commented on the pitch once, and that was when it was really the last sort of season of Arsene Wenger, and it got so bad that Arsenal, the Supporters Trust, had to survey their members. And just a story on that, I remember, because I was a massive Arsene Wenger fan. I've got all sorts. I totally love the man. Grew up watching him. I've got sort of bits signed by him and stuff like that, and was lucky enough to meet him several times. And we surveyed our members, and 78% felt it was time for him to move on. And I remember I was on Sky Sports News kind of the next day having to give the survey results, and it absolutely killed me that I had to basically say that on air. Even though I was one of the others who kind of said, "Oh, one more season." Maybe it probably wasn't right, but sentimental. One more season.
Yeah, heart over your head there.
Yeah, it was. It was totally. But it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. So that's what the Supporters Trust has to do. It has to try and be. We've got to take our opinions to one side and see what the membership think. But we focus on sort of, as I said, governance and stuff like that. I mean, today's a great example. Richard Garlick's been promoted essentially to managing director, so he is essentially going to do the role of the CEO. So Rinai Venkatesham is moving on in the summer. That kind of stuff is stuff we've asked. We've asked questions around, what was the process for the CEO recruitment. We want to make sure Arsenal are running the business as well as they can be run. We've got auditors, accountants, lawyers on our board. We've got all sorts of expertise and all that sort of stuff. So we kind of keep an eye on things. We look at the accounts. We'll look at all the ticketing stuff, ballots, the how memberships work, all that kind of stuff, and we'll always try and represent essentially our members who are fans of the club. Not just our members, but we'll try to do the best for the fans.
Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
So we'll work on all the off the field stuff. We won't. You asked me about is Kai Havertz the right man to play number 8? I'll give you an opinion, my opinion, but the Arsenal Sports Trust would not have an opinion or a line on that, because actually, who are we to tell Mikel and Edu who to play and what to do and who to sign? But we can certainly tell Arsenal if we think £100 is too much for a ticket, which it is. But we'll certainly tell them that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of our role.
Nice. Okay. So I just kind of wanted to sort of touch on a little bit there with the AGM side of things, because I know it's obviously changed since Kroenke's had that full takeover in 2018. Now, I was reading through the website earlier, and they promised that there would be communication with you guys, and I just wanted to see kind of what's happening there. Have they stuck to their word, or is that just gone by the wayside? Because Josh Kroenke he seems to appear quite open. Lots of the sort of media that comes out from the club directly, he's quite open, quite chatty. Seems to be quite pally with obviously Arteta and the players and stuff as well. So I was just keen to kind of see what that's actually like with you guys really as well.
Yeah. So as you rightly say, KSE. Is it KSI there? Because KSI definitely hasn't bought the club.
He's still a Gooner, isn't he?
He's still a Gooner. KSE, Kroenke Entertainment Enterprise, or whatever it is. They obviously, they became sort of sole owners of the club. It was a little bit of a sour relationship initially. They kind of compulsory bought basically shares. All those 200-300 people we were representing, they got their shares taken away from them because legally, when you own a certain amount of a company, you can then compulsory take away the shares of the people, because really the shares were just, they weren't doing much. We didn't, if you've only got 3% of a club but someone's got 97%, you're not going to get anything through the door. It's a token, absolutely. But it was a case of, was that done right? I mean, I can only speak from the people who I've spoken to who had shares, who say they just felt like it was taken from them without real care and attention. Some people have had it in their family for 100 years. It was brought, given down from their great granddad to their granddad to the dad to them. They wanted to have it, give it to their sons or daughters, and stuff like that. So people did feel quite disappointed. I remember when the Kroenkes kind of did their statement with Arsenal, did their statement about, so we've bought the shares now of Alicia Usmanoff and all the minority fans. They thanked Alicia Usmanoff for his kind of, I don't know, understanding and work, but never really even mentioned those minority kind of shareholders who are just the fans. So it was just always, I don't think it was done very well. I don't see why potentially we couldn't have done something where fans still have a bit of the club, because it's important. It's the fans' club. I always say that it's not Stan Kroenke's club. It's the fans' club. It's all the money generated at Arsenal is because of the fans. It's because of you guys. It's because of whoever's listening who's an Arsenal fan. It's there's a reason why Emirates and Adidas want to sponsor us, because we fill out the Emirates every week. We fill out away grounds. We buy the shirts. We kind of do all that kind of stuff. So it definitely, it's our club as fans. And I'm not sure that the Kroenkes, who obviously are American, it's very different in America. You have franchises. You have, they obviously are famous for moving one of their clubs from a city to somewhere else. So you can imagine how much we were shitting it when they came across. Bloody hell, if they've moved a thing from a city to another city, then what are they going to do here? So it was always a little bit, I mean, they never really communicated at all. There was the odd, I think I met Josh for the first time around 2018-19 when they took over. He came to a fans forum, but then never really saw him again, heard from him again. But as you said, he was very charming. He was, we'd seen him at AGMs and stuff. He was very charming, very nice, I would say, from face value. But then didn't hear from them, and then obviously the Super League stuff happened, and that obviously changed football for a while. And that was when the Kroenkes and Josh then started to communicate a little bit more. They were doing a lot more interviews and stuff like that. We had a couple of meetings with them and stuff like that. And he's stuck to his word in some aspects, not in others. He attends, I think, a couple of the meetings with fans on something called the Arsenal Advisory Board that was formed after the Super League. But he also committed to coming to something called the Fans Forum, and he hasn't. So it's a case of, he said after the Super League, we need to rebuild the trust. We need to get your trust back. Well, if you ask an ordinary fan, they'll probably say, like, what's the problem? We're competing for the leagues, we're spending money, we've just spent 100 million on Declan Rice. And I'll totally agree. I think actually, if you don't talk about your owners, it probably means they're doing a good job. And I think the Kroenkes actually at the moment are doing a good job. But I'll always think back and think, well, they did promise to communicate and they haven't. They did try and join the Super League. Will that come again? The Super League, technically, the legal entity, we're still a part of. So we haven't actually we haven't left the Super League because it's quite a complex legal issue, we're told. So it's a case of, we kind of, I did a piece for Jeremy Wilson from the Telegraph, and he asked me the question, like, if the Kroenkes were walking on Holloway Road, what sort of a reaction would they get? And I said, well, it wouldn't be like it was 4 or 5 years ago when people were shouting at them and telling them to go. It'll probably be a keep going. We're on the right steps here. Just keep going, but just don't do anything stupid, like join the Super League. So I think that is kind of key. So I think it's a case of, have they kept to their promises? What's the communication like? It's okay. Could be better, absolutely. But while you're doing all right on the field, you sort of don't really care, to be honest. It's a watching brief. At the moment, we just want to put 100%. We want to be behind Mikel and the boys, and Jonas and the women as well, because they're obviously doing well. Just want the two sides to do really well. It's less about the ownership at the moment.
And what do you think about it on the pitch then at the minute? What's your thoughts?
I mean, we were all surprised last year, right? We were 8th the season before, and then suddenly we were in the title race. I was convinced we were going to win the league last year. It really hurt me, not as much as Paris, but it really hurt me. I remember when Gabriel Jesus scored at Anfield. It was Easter. It was the 8th or 9th of April. And I just turned around to my mates and said, oh, my God, we're actually going to win the league. We were 2 up at Anfield. So we're actually going to win the league here. I'm just, Liverpool came back into the game, drew 2-2. We then went to West Ham, and I think we drew 2-2 again. We then went to Southampton. Well, Southampton came to us, and we drew 3-3. And that was that, really. I still remember going to City and being, the concourse before the game was just buzzing, because we just felt, you never know, we've got a chance here. And then we lost 4-1. So we hadn't. But, taking that period aside, the football we played last year was just incredible. I haven't seen the Emirates like that. I think about that. In fact, I think it was, around this time last year, maybe a couple of days, but we beat Man United 3-2 when Eddie Nketiah scored at the end. We beat Liverpool when Saka scored that penalty. There was times when the Emirates was roaring, away from home as well. And it was just a joy to be around. It was a joy to be a part of. So I think we were doing really well this season. Maybe we're just not quite there yet, which I think everyone would admit, But the fact that Christmas Day, I remember coming back
away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
It feels like we're quite close. Maybe just a player away, maybe 2 players away. But I mean, we were 8th 3 seasons ago, so I'm not sure we can complain.
Yeah, we just need a striker though, don't we?
Yeah, need a striker, but I think first we need Saka and Martinelli to get goals again. Hopefully Martinelli, that 2 goals has helped. We need Odegaard to be playing like he was. We need to replace Granit Xhaka's goals. We need Jesus to be fit. Thomas Partey is back in training now as well. Need him to stay fit, because I think him and Rice. I would love to go to I would love to play Liverpool at home and then go to Man City Easter, ironically this year, with them 2 in midfield, because I think we can. I would fancy them against anyone. So a striker would be great. I'm not sure we'll get one. But for me, it's just getting those players who were scoring last year, scoring again, getting players like Emil Smith-Rowe playing again, and he looked good on the weekend. If he can chip in with a few goals, because he used to do that. So it's just, I think it's getting more out of what we've got, because I think that team it's got another level for sure. So just hope we see it.
Yeah, that's great. With
that midfield, God, imagine. Yeah.
I thought that earlier when I saw Partey in training. I thought, this is going to be great.
Getting all excited.
With the atmosphere at the Emirates, then, do you think that's changed since kind of the Ashburton Army and the likes have done what they're doing and just trying to promote and support and become that sort of firm, really?
Yeah, I think a lot of things happened last year. I think. Obviously, the Ashburton Army were great in terms of kind of just that constant singing and trying to get people to sing around them. I think the Angel, the song, North London Forever, kind of stumbled. It was the season before we stumbled into it, right at the end of the season. And I remember again being in meetings with the club when someone said, like, is this the anthem? Do we think we should we play this? And it was just a case of try it, just see what happens, And they tried it against, I think it was Leeds at home, just April time, so season before last, and it flew off. Everyone loved it. People didn't know the words initially, but everyone loved it. So that helped. And then I think it was just performances on the pitch. We started games so quickly last year, so fast, that we were excited again. And that's what the atmosphere was. And the game I always think about was that Liverpool at home. Martinelli scored within 10, 15 seconds. And it was just we wanted to be at our seats before the game started because we just didn't know what to expect because we started so fast. So I think there was we weren't expecting it, whereas I think this year we're expecting it more. We know the Angel's going to happen. We know the Ashburton Army have got a slightly reduced allocation, but we know what they're going to be doing. So it's kind of a case of it's a little bit different now because we're expecting to beat Palace at home. We're expecting to beat West Ham, even though we didn't. Whereas maybe this time last year, every game was a big game. So it's just, combination of things. I know Arsenal are looking at atmosphere, and I think, we've certainly been asking our membership if people have got ideas and stuff like that they've seen elsewhere, then please do share them because we want the Emirates to be a fortress. We want it to be, big. I share a story with you. I know. I don't know if I should even share this, but I know that in kind of his first or second season, Mikel Arteta was sending videos of sort of games in Germany to sort of the Arsenal exec board and saying look at how good this is. How can we make this happen at the Emirates and stuff? And I think German culture is just different.
Oh, wow.
Safe standing, stuff like that. But it's a thing of, Mikel's talked about it, the players have talked about it. We were at Supporters Trust, we were lucky enough to do an interview with Granit Xhaka before he left. And he was saying that we feel it. When the fans are on it, we feel it. So everyone knows it. It's just a case of, I don't know. It's the atmosphere was very good last year. I don't think it's as good this year, but I just think it's just because the expectations changed a little bit, and it'll be great for Liverpool in 2 weeks because under lights, 4:30, people have been on the beers most of the day. It will be lively. But then the week after, when we play Brentford or whatever, it might go flat again. But I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it's also because we've lost a few games, but anyway, let's see.
It's one of those. I think we've been to a few games and the atmosphere is just dead, and you're like, come on, how do we, like you say, how do we get this going? Just me and Ben sat there, like, how do we get this going? And I wonder if there's other people just thinking the same thing as well, but just all silent. It's so
weird, isn't it? It's weird.
Like it, it's really odd.
It just takes one good bit of play from Saka or Martinelli, or like a really good diagonal ball or something, and all of a sudden everyone just goes, "Oh, hang on a minute!" It just changes so quickly, doesn't it? I think, especially for us, we've got so many creative players as well who are technically absolutely gifted.
I thought the atmosphere in the cup game against Liverpool was good because I thought we started well and we played well first half. We hit the bar with the post. We had chances. It was lively. So, I think the players know that it's on them as well to give us those quick starts to get people up as well. They know it, but at the same time, sometimes they might not, and they need us to give them the boost and stuff like that. So, it's tough to. It's a very hard one to answer, and a very hard one to find a solution, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you go to the Arsenal-Luton game at Kenilworth Road?
Yeah, I did.
What was the atmosphere like there? Because I watched it on, because that was on Amazon Prime, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So I watched it without the commentary.
Okay.
Just listening to the crowd, and it sounded electric just through that.
It was a great game, obviously. 4-3, last minute, Declan Rice header.
Squeaky bum for us, though, wasn't it?
It was. I think it's funny you say about atmosphere, but at Luton it's basically open seating, so you can sit wherever you want or stand wherever you want. It's all standing.
Okay.
So you had groups of mates all together, really, and that does help the atmosphere because suddenly you might have booked your ticket alone or with 2 other people or 3 other people. Suddenly, if you know 10, 15 people, you're all together, and suddenly you've got the ability to start chants and stuff. And for me, there's normally 6 or 7 of us that all sit together, but we know so many different groups of people that we all actually, it's about 40, 50 of us that were all in the vicinity, and it was actually quite nice because we could all sort of support each other in chance. I think there was something to do with that, maybe. That helped. It was a night game. It was a good game. It was lots happening. So but that end was mad. It was a bit dangerous actually because the ground is not really built for excitement, if I'm honest. So it was the fact that we got a last minute when there was injuries, not in the players, to fans. There was like a couple of paramedics into the crowd afterwards when people had fallen over or bashed their leg or all sorts. But it was limbs as they say. For sure.
Has there been much on the allocation for Arsenal tickets and selling tickets, because they've just changed, haven't they, to that sort of new is it a ballot system, isn't it?
Yeah, so they moved to a ballot system this season. Yeah, I mean, purely because we talked about the atmosphere being great last year and stuff, and the fast starts and expectations suddenly started to change during the title race. But what does that bring? That brings demand, and everybody wants to watch Arsenal again, which is great. But it does mean that a 60,000 stadium now is probably too small, and we've got thousands and thousands. It's a tough one. So
That's magnificent. Here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
Online at 10 o'clock, if you're a teacher, a policeman, a nurse, you couldn't say. It was just suddenly, it was a bit unfair. It was a bit of a lottery, and I think the club felt, if it's a lottery anyway, let's do it fairly, where whoever wants to enter can enter. So regardless of if you can be available at 10 o'clock or not, and it's worked for some people. I know some people have come up to me and said, actually, this is great. I've been to 4 or 5 games this season, which I never got to do. But I've got some people saying I used to go to pretty much every game, and I now can only go to 2 or 3. So it's a really hard thing. I think from a supporters trust perspective, it's there'll be winners and losers on ballots, but for us it's kind of, let's try and solve those empty seats. Let's make sure if a season ticket holder can't go, they're putting their ticket on exchange so somebody else can buy it. Let's try and make that pot for silvers and reds a little bit bigger. Let's make sure, commercially we have to look after our commercial partners because they pay us a lot of money, but let's try and be as sensible as possible. Let's force commercial partners to give their seats back if they're not using them. Let's kind of, every time I see an empty seat, I just think, God, someone could have come, someone could have sat there. So that's where, as a supporters trust, what we're trying to really fight. Touting as well. We don't want touts to get tickets and make 300, 400 quid on a poor Arsenal fan who just doesn't know the system and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, those are the things we're working on to hopefully help. But it's tough. But at the moment, demand is just very high to watch Arsenal, which is great because that means we're doing well. But equally, it's probably very frustrating for people.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone into the ballot every time so far, and I've not managed to get a ticket yet. But I'm just still hoping. I'm hoping we'll have a couple of cup runs. It'll be a bit easier to get a few tickets.
Have you applied for every game?
Probably not every game, but probably about 8 or 9 of them.
That's still quite a lot.
Yeah, I've been unfortunate.
I think when I was told last, it was only the start of this week, but I think only 43 people have applied for every game, or nearly enough every game, and not got a ticket. So it's very, very small. Wow. The Liverpool game, there was a big success rate because obviously Arsenal now have a cup scheme. So previously, season ticket holders used to get all their cup games included. Now it's like you can either opt in and have them automatically charged, or you can buy them match by match. So I think around sort of 10 to 15,000 didn't buy their tickets. So that meant more and more silvers got in. So I don't know if you enter the ballot for Liverpool, but
typically no.
You would have been. I think it was about 50%. So it was like 1 in 2 like got a ticket. So you maybe missed one there, but hopefully Champions League we have a bit of a run, and I don't know the Porto game. Have you entered for the Porto game or?
I can't remember if I have or not. I think I might
see what happens, because that's obviously the cup scheme. Some people might think actually category A going to give it a miss. So there might be a little bit more for silvers and reds, but we'll see.
I'm going to jot that down for after once we finish recording. Let's double check that one. In terms of kind of you as a fan and kind of your experiences then. So we've gone through some of the crappiest games that you've been to. What's been like the highlight game for you? Or highlight games, I should say, because I'm sure there's more than one.
Yeah, there's loads. I mean, so when we were winning league titles and stuff, I was sort of 14, 16 sort of thing. So in 2004, 2004, I was 16. The games obviously, sort of Tottenham, Man United away, stuff like that over the time. So 98, I went to Old Trafford, we won 1-0, Mark Overmars scored. Absolutely, that game was incredible, but I was 10, couldn't see much. Kind of everyone stands at away games, it was tough. 2004 was great, but then I wasn't old enough to go to a pub afterwards. So they're all a bit different. So it's just, obviously the titles were great, but at that age, when I was 10 at 98 or when I was 16 in 2004, I think I just felt success was going to come every year because we were just winning things every other year. It was us and Man United. And if we had a bad season, we'll still win an FA Cup, 2003, 2005.
Yeah, that was that sort of like hand-me-off prize of, we didn't win the league, but we got the cup. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was like, I'll do. I mean, it's not great, but it'll do sort of thing.
Yeah.
But so that I was very spoiled kind of thing growing up. So those were great, but did I enjoy them as much as I should have? Probably not really. So it's the FA Cups under the latter ones under Wenger were great. Great day out. Hull was a great day out. Villa was stress free. Chelsea 17 was great. And obviously 20 was behind closed doors, but they're great days. I think that Chelsea one 2017 was kind of magical. I think that was probably the one where Arsene Wenger definitely should have said, "Okay, that's it from me. I'm off." Just beating the champions, stopped their double, won the FA Cup. It was the sort of Sanchez Ozil time. It was a great day, just a really great day, and to beat Chelsea, who were favourites, was just fantastic. So that was actually one of my favourite days. But obviously the titles were great, and there's been some, last year winning at Tottenham 2-0 at Tottenham was great because it's in their new stadium and stuff like that. We've had some, wins at Old Trafford as well. I think about the Danny Welbeck FA Cup moment at Old Trafford was great. We haven't lost at Chelsea for 5-6 years now. We've won there more than we've drawn even. So there's been great moments, but obviously when you win things, Real Madrid at home at Highbury, best 0-0 you'll ever see. Jens made a great save off Raul, I think it was. Moments like that are just great. But ultimately, it's when you want to win titles. So it's the FA Cups and the leagues where they probably have had the best games.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on kind of the Manchester City saga with their charges from the Premier League and what that means then going forward?
Well, I would like them to be investigated. I mean, like everyone else has, I know people will say that, they were quick to deduct points from Everton, weren't they? And for City, they're sort of sitting on their hands, which there might be a case of that. But I think it does seem like it seems very complex. But what you just hope is, you hope there isn't corruption. You hope there isn't, you just hope they're going to be investigated. If they've been found to break the rules, you hope they'll be punished. I don't really know what else to say, really, because I don't really know the ins and outs. I mean, if you are to tell me, will they be stripped of their titles and stuff, and what does that mean? I'm sort of not massively interested, because if you were to tell me, actually, guess what? Last year, City got stripped of their title, so Arsenal, you're champions. It's not what are we going to do? We're not going to do an open top parade, are we? Now about so. It's a case of it's really irrelevant. I mean, what's happened? People are saying about Barcelona and referees and stuff, and there was a period around 2006, 2009. Then they're looking at again. If you can say to me, "Oh yeah, Paris," actually, guess what? It doesn't take away the hurt.
I'd take that. I would take it all day long because I feel it's so unjustified. Yeah, but Ali, I know you'll be listening to this. Fuck you. Take it.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, though, right? You're not going to. We want to win it and enjoy it. So, but what I hope is, I hope City will be, if they've broken the rules, they should be punished, and whatever that punishment is. We'll see. We'll take major.
It's magnificent. Here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
Then, though, if they get relegated, because the EFL has said, well, we don't have to accept them.
Yeah.
So then they could get knocked into the National League, and they've said, we don't have to accept them. So then they go into the county side. I mean, I'd love to see that. It's not going to happen, obviously.
Yeah.
Someone
can't see Pep hanging around for that, but
no, absolutely not. Can you imagine Pep in Conference South or Conference North? It's just an incredible scenes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Those cold grounds with no real cover and the dugouts freezing. It would be quite fun. But yeah, I don't know what will happen, but you just want them to be investigated and you want them to be punished if they've broken the rules, for sure.
Yeah, certainly made interesting kind of news. But Man City, regardless, are just that team that everybody wants to beat, similar to United, Barcelona were back in the day. Are you enjoying the competition? And with Liverpool in there now as well, you think that's good?
Well, I mean, last year I was really proud of the way that we competed with them. They'd obviously spent on Haaland. It probably wasn't big money on Haaland compared to the rest, but because of the clause and because he only wanted them, it was a simple one for them. But you look at the money they've spent on their centre backs, Diaz and Co, and Greenish. Obviously, this from their team. What Foden's probably homegrown. Spent money on Stones. They've spent money on the whole lot really. And it, at the same time, you can say Arsenal have as well. Arsenal spent. If you look at the Arsenal team, Ramsdale was and Raya both have 25 whatever million. From
Ben White 50 million.
Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, all 20 odd, 25 million. Declan Rice, obviously, Thomas Partey came for 45. Where we haven't is obviously that kind of Odegaard was 30, and Jesus, but obviously the Saka Martinelli's the kind of the couple of homegrown talent there we haven't spent on. But we've spent money as well. We can't not say that. But obviously City and Chelsea even have been spending it relentlessly for 10, 15 years now, and Arsenal wouldn't be doing that. Arsenal won't do that. Arsenal have invested to get Arsenal back to where they feel they should be. But Arsenal will not continue to keep spending that amount of money, where City probably would if they could. But yeah, proud that we've built a team that can compete a little bit. Proud that we beat them at home this season. Just want us to keep going, keep improving, and hopefully win a league. But competition's great, and it's great to be part of it. Great to be part of the conversation.
It seems like though that with Arsenal, so I saw something, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, was released with regards to the money that they've made on players, and we were like right up there with just not making money on players. We're not making just spending money like with Pepe and things. And I've seen it a few times. Arsenal have been frustrated with releasing players from their contracts for nothing rather than actually taking a transfer fee that other clubs would do. Do you have any understanding on why that is?
There's a combination of a few things. The most simple thing is people don't want our players. Essentially. Why don't they want our players? Maybe because they are paid a little bit more and they can't afford their wages. Maybe it's because of injuries. You think I know Arsenal this summer, I think, were quite disappointed that they didn't really sell Kieran Tierney was one that they thought they could probably make some money on. Didn't make any money on him. Emil Smith-Rowe, whether he was available or not, I don't know, but certainly didn't sell him. But I'm glad they didn't, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's just that, we haven't. Sorry.
I love ESR. I think there's so much potential.
I think so too. But yeah, we haven't sold, and it's essentially because the interest potentially isn't there. You think this window we'll be happy to sell Cedric, Elneny. I think Eddie Nketiah, bless him, lovely guy. I'm not sure he's top level. I think if you could get 20-30 for Eddie Nketiah, I'll probably let him go. But really, it's been in isolation. Joe Willock, Alex Iwobi are probably the two that we actually got some money for. But we've definitely struggled. But Arsenal know that. Arsenal know, they've sort of admitted it, that they need to show they're good sellers as well. I think about 10 years ago, there was a couple of things. They wanted to be good buyers and buying that top bracket. I think they've done that now. The Rice deal shows that. And then they also wanted to be better at contracts. I think they've done that. Every player is pretty much signed up. It's in our power now, which is great. And then the third thing was be good sellers. Chelsea, for all their faults, are good sellers. They're a lot of them are homegrown players they sold, which fans were upset about. But they got money for Mount. They got money for whoever else they've sold. City as well have sold the odd one. Sterling went obviously for a bit of money to Chelsea and stuff like that. Liverpool have sold well as well. I mean, that Coutinho money bought them Van Dijk and Alisson, didn't it, and stuff like that. So Suarez as well. So all the other clubs are selling better than us. Even Spurs got money for Bale. I mean, they've absolutely messed it up the way they spent it, but they got the money in. Whereas we haven't quite done that. We're not quite there, and I just think it's it's lack of interest. Maybe wages are a bit high, and I think injury prone. I think a lot of our players are. Kieran Tierney, would you spend 30 million on him? You would if you could guarantee his fitness, but not if he's kind of going to be injured every kind of couple of months. So it's that I think Arsenal would have hoped. I think they would. If someone came in for Thomas Partey, for example, they'll be happy to probably sell if they got some money in for him, but there was just no interest. Where their interest was Gabriel, and they weren't willing to sell him, obviously, because he's part of that Saliba partnership, and rightly so. So, it's, I'm sure they could. I'm sure somebody would buy Saka for 100 million, but obviously that's not what Arsenal want to do. So, they need to get better at that. The interesting one will be probably in the summer will be Ramsdale. He's obviously got some value. I think there'll be lots of clubs that would want to buy on Ramsdale. I personally really like him. I feel maybe creating a little bit of a problem that we didn't have. We're actually conceding more shots and more goals than we were last year, so it's maybe a confidence thing. But yeah, that will be one. But apart from that, you can't really see. Who else could you really sell to make money? It's not really in there. Who we actually want to get rid of in terms of that?
Yeah, I think I think you said we had to spend big to essentially rebuild that entire squad.
Yeah.
The fact that we got rid of Aubameyang, Özil, and just let them go was big kind of marquee decisions. But it has worked out right.
It has.
We're making up for the mistakes of like the Sanchez for Mkhitaryan deal, for example. It's like one of the worst bits of business I think we've ever done. Sanchez was absolutely world class for us.
You say that, but Sanchez for United was so bad that actually I'm not sure. But I know what you mean. For us, he was so good.
I saw something the other day comparing his stats, like goal and assists. He had similar amount of games as Özil, and he got more assists than Özil, and obviously way more goals.
Yeah.
I just thought, watching back, he was insane for us.
I think we look back over 20 years and we're actually not the Henry days, because they were a different class. But I think since the Invincibles, I've probably seen 3 players for me that have been absolute worldies. So that's Cesc Fabregas, Robin Van Persie, and Alexis Sanchez. I think with 3 of them in the team, I just felt like we've had a few good players.
Messi.
But he was very
Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
He was,
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure they said it publicly, but we had Gary and Colin Lewin, the ex-physios, at one of our events, and they were saying that, when players went away for their internationals, that the physios and stuff would obviously be communicating with the players and stuff, and if a player's got a slight injury, they would be kind of saying that, talking to the country and saying, look, he's got a slight hammy and that friendly, it would be great if he only played 45 minutes and stuff. But they said with Sanchez, he would go against that and say, no, I want to play 90 minutes. And then after the games, all the players are going to report back to say, yeah, I'm fine, all good, see you tomorrow sort of thing. Sanchez was the one who would never text them and say, is he all right? So he was just, he wasn't quite, he was obsessed by football, I think, but he wasn't quite that team player as such, maybe. You can sort of see that a little bit, couldn't you, really? But he was a great player. Absolutely great player. We'd love to have kept him for another year or two.
Yeah, it would have been
In fact,
amazing.
he could play up front for this team, couldn't he? And he, imagine.
Yeah, I was just thinking he'd be insane in this squad at the moment, just because he's got that energy as well. I know he used to press from the front every single time.
He's a fighter as well. I mean, you see, Jesus is a bit of a fighter. He'll battle, and Sanchez was the same, but probably with a better output. So maybe a bit old now, but Sanchez of 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I did see a rumor in the summer saying that he was like speaking to Arteta to ask if he can come back to Arsenal for a year.
I'm sure he would love to, but I don't think Arsenal would ever take him back, and just not the right profile anymore.
No,
and stuff like that. So I mean, remember he was at Arsenal. What we're talking 5 years now. It's a long time.
It's a long time, isn't it? And in terms of like the current squad, then who do you think can go on to be that sort of world class level?
Saka, for sure.
Yeah,
I think I probably don't need to explain why. I just think he's
no.
He's not only Arsenal's best player. I think he's one of England's best players. I think I was astounded when he against France in the Euros he won the penalty and then was taken off. And I just thought he's absolutely shitting this fullback.
Yeah,
he's just won a penalty. I can't remember if it was the penalty Kane scored or the one he missed. I can't remember which one it was. It's a bit of a blur, but I remember he went off straight away after, and you just thought, "What are you doing, Gareth?" So Saka for sure. I think Martinelli can be really good because I think he's just got the right attitude. He just talks about he wants to play, wants to play football, and I think he's got the right attitude. I mean, Declan Rice has been. He does the job of two players, and I just think he can be as good as he wants to be. He's definitely going to be an England captain at some point.
Yeah, undoubtedly, yeah, undoubtedly.
I just think. I mean, I personally think England, as much as Southgate has done well to get us to the finals and stuff, I think it's definitely a time for it. Should be his last tournament now, because I think. To waste, I mean, we all say golden generation was great, Gerrard, Lampard, Owen, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, fine. But if we're going to waste Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice, then we're never going to win anything as a country. So I want a manager there who is going to not play Calvin Phillips alongside them or bloody Jordan Henderson. Play those two alone because they're absolute beasts. Get Saka on that right against wingers, get potentially Grealish in there and Foden as number 10, and obviously put Harry Kane, who I've always said he's a good player. Obviously now he's not at Spurs.
He's a world class player now, isn't he?
Very out there, by the way. But just have some balls and just go with it because those two are such great players, Rice and Bellingham. So Rice is another one I think is going to be really good, and then Saliba. Just think he's Rolls Royce. He's ready to take over. And I think Gabriel's done really well as well, by the way. But I think Gabriel will always be a very good player. Saliba could be a worldie.
I think Odegaard has to go in there as well for me on that one.
I don't know the world class level personally. I think just one below. I know we've debated a couple of weeks ago about what is defining world class nowadays, but
I think people say when world class is, would he get into any other team? And I just think Saka probably would. most teams. Saliba probably would. Rice probably would. Would Odegaard? Maybe he's unlucky because Kevin De Bruyne is not he's come back strong and plays like that. But I love Martin Odegaard. In fact, I got this printed today because I play. When I play five
nice.
I like to have a number because I try and play like the player's weird, man. I'm weird, but like honestly, I play five-side every Monday, and if I've had a couple of bad games in a row, which is quite often, I bring out my gold Sega Henry shirt, and I don't know what, it just inspires me to. I normally bang in a few goals. I just
the
Sega one before that 2002. It just brings out. It's like a magic shirt. So I always feel the player on the back. I believe it or not, I don't know what I was thinking, but I had do you remember the white Arsenal shirt 2000?
Yes, wasn't that the third kit though?
Possibly.
Yeah, it had like the writing on it or something, didn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I got William Gallas on the back. I don't know why. Number 10. And I always had the stinker when I used to play with that shirt. Like it's I literally wear them when I play five-a-side football, but I just feel I feel the Odegaard the Odegaard one's going to inspire me. But I think he's a very, very good player. I love him as captain. I've sort of had I'm very biased as well. Did you ever hear about Odegaard FaceTiming the fans in the train back?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I was the fan. So it's
no way.
So I've got a real soft spot for Odegaard because I know his agent, and I sort of said, I'm a little bit drunk actually on the way back from Newcastle, and just said this would be really cool, like if we could do this. And he said yes, and obviously when he got home, he got home well before us, even taking a flight and all that kind of stuff, and obviously he did it. And I just feel he talking to his agent and seeing that and stuff, he really wants to be an Arsenal legend. He wants to be the Arsenal captain. He spent time with Tony Adams. He spent time with Patrick Vieira. He wants to understand what it is like to be an Arsenal captain. When Arsenal had the stadium design stuff, when they unveiled that, there was an event in Angel. Martin Odegaard turned up and came to it because he believed as Arsenal captain, he should be there. Obviously, the FaceTime with us was a bit of a laugh, but he didn't have to do it. So I've got a real soft spot for him. So I want him to be great. But if I'm going to be fair, I think he's going to be very, very good. I think Saka, Saliba, Rice are the three, and then I think Odegaard potentially and Martinelli could be there. But maybe they're going to be the next two. But yeah, I will do a little game. With you. I got these shirts. I've got a mate who works in the industry, so I got them a little bit cheaper, which is because who can afford all three shirts nowadays? But let's play a little game of guess who's on the back of the shirt. So I got them printed today. Funny enough.
All right, go on.
You can ask me. You can ask me questions. I can only say yes or no.
Okay, great shout.
Go on, you go first, Will.
In the first 11.
Yes.
First 11.
Numbers 1 to 6.
Defender.
Magnificent.
Defender.
Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
So let's limit it to 2.
Oh no, Timber's number 12, isn't he?
Yeah.
You've got one more question, Ben. Let's limit it to 2 questions.
Okay.
You've got one more question.
Is he a centre back?
Yes.
I'm going to go Gabriel.
Saliba.
No, Saliba.
Oh,
No.
Now we've got one. The last one.
Whenever I see that yellow shirt, though, I don't know why. I instantly think Martinelli. I don't know why. When there's always a shirt that draws you to a player, isn't there?
Well, that's what I mean. Senderos with that because my mate's got Senderos on the back. But Henry obviously comes to mind. Oh, so I see what you mean. You've got the gold shirt behind. Yeah, that's the shirt.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Sorry. That's the one. I've got Henry on the back, and that's my Saviour shirt. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't quite see it before.
No.
So, all right, last game. So you got 2 each again. Who's on the back of this?
Ooh. First, I'll go for the same question. First team, current first team. Okay.
Yes, most weeks.
Peripheral. Oh, okay. Is he an attacking-minded player?
Yes.
Okay. Is he left-footed?
That doesn't help anyone because none of us here know, clearly.
Not sure.
Okay.
Ask a different one. Will.
Obviously, it's a shit question. I don't know if I deserve another one.
Right, I was just going to Google that.
If you just say out loud what you're Googling and we'll try and guess.
Okay, I think he might be, but funny enough, Google says he's an unusual player. But okay, so I think so, but yeah, it's. I think you can use both.
Okay, is he playing on the wing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That goes my guess.
So I've got to guess the player. I think Havertz.
What about you? Do you want to have a guess?
I was thinking Trossard because he sometimes plays through the middle. I'm going to go with Jesus. Oh, Will.
For those listening, I was going to say this is a really shit game if you're listening to a podcast, aren't you? Actually, you can't see the shirt. So just for the listeners, the second, the Saliba one was on the away, the yellow one, and the Havertz was on the green third shirt.
I do really like that third shirt.
Yeah,
I do really like that. It's so different to what we've had for quite a while.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
We've really appreciated your time. Before you go, though, would you? What are your predictions for Arsenal this season?
That league, I just feel. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if you watched Newcastle City, but if you did, and you saw De Bruyne come on, score and then assist, and just thought, yeah, they're gonna win like 10 in a row now, aren't they? They're just gonna do what they did last year, just bang, 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 bang. So I just feel, unfortunately, the league's not gonna happen for us. So, as long as we get top 4, I think that is the minimum. I don't know, Champions League, it's a weird one because often when you haven't been in it for a while and stuff, you do actually overachieve a little bit. If you look at a lot of teams have overachieved when they first entered it because they're a little bit unknown. People have forgotten how to play them, So we get past Porto, anything's possible. You're suddenly in a quarter-final. You're 2 games away from a semi-final. So it'll be great to have a run in the Champions League. If we could get, and Porto will be a tough game. Don't get me wrong, but if we can get through them, I would feel slightly. It depends who we get, but you think actually could we get to a semi-final? That would be great, wouldn't it? To get to a semi-final. Imagine how the Emirates will be that night and the away end for wherever we go. It will be, we've all said we want to be back playing in Europe's elite competition against the best teams, and if we got to a semi, even a quarter, but if we got to a semi, that would be, for me, that would be a good season. Still, people say you haven't won anything, and that's true. I think we want to win stuff, but just think it would be slight progression. We're in the Europa last year, getting to the semis of the Champions League, but then you get to the semis, anything's possible. So you never know. We've seen Chelsea fluke the Champions League. We've seen even Liverpool the season that they beat Spurs in the final. We've seen Spurs fluke a Champions League final. You've seen Porto win it. You've seen Greece win the Euros. Portugal won the Euros. It can happen. You never know. But
I've got hope now.
That's true.
Bit of luck.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives us hope for the rest of the season, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But no, it's been an absolute pleasure. You guys listen at home. I'm sure you've all enjoyed it too. But that's it for this week, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you.